in this video, we're going to take a look at the sbconfig and invoke registered function. We'll also take a little bit of a look at some of the custom CSS that we can do using the sbconfig feature. So the main component here deals with these objects. So we're going to take two numbers, 3 and 5, or we can change those as we see fit. And we're going to, when we click on the send data button, send those to a custom function that we create. And then we'll receive that data back and print it out in here. So the actual function is unimportant, it's just a demo, but this is an example of how we do that. So we're taking, when the button is clicked, we're taking the two values in a list, and we're sending it to a registered function called, in this case, my custom function. Obviously, your functions will take different pieces of data, and you'll have your own function names. So this particular example is pulling in a response and displaying it here in this text object. So we're going to set that text in here with this little label attached to it. So where does this invoke registered function block come from? We can find that under advanced and procedure. There's two blocks. This one basically just sends something and it does not wait for a response. This one here will send whatever data you attach to it, and then it will wait for a response, and then it has a socket where the return data can get used. So that's the one that we're using for this use case. So here here's the example. We've just changed it to my custom function, whatever it is that we're going to call in the JavaScript file, and then we're pulling in these two numbers. We can send one piece of data. We would still need to use a list here, or we could send multiple pieces of data, however your function is configured. So there's that. So this is the SmartBuilder component. Let's take a look at the file structure and see what that looks like. So here we have lesson 1. That's the lesson that I'm in right now. While I've got it open, there's a working copy. That's what this file is. We can just ignore that. As soon as I save and close this, that file will disappear. But what's important here is right next to my lesson1.sb. If you have an older lesson, it will be called lesson1.sb4. And everywhere that you see SB here, it'll say SB4. So also in here, it'll say SB4. So let's take a look at this. So we have lesson 1, and we have this sbconfig folder next to it with the exact same name. If we dig into this, we see sb_module. We don't want to touch that. But inside there, now we have our custom file. So here in the JavaScript file, we will have some JavaScript that is called my custom function and does something with that. So let's take a peek in there. So here we have SB4 API functions, and then there's my custom function, and it's expecting two numbers as parameters. So in this case, the simple thing that it does is, one, it will send an alert. We could send a console.log if we wanted to. A quick side note, console.log is suppressed by default, but you can re-enable it by using this line here. Here we have number 1, X, number 2. So it's going to pop that alert. I'll put some spaces in here. Just to know that we caught it here, we would probably comment that out once we're sure that this is working as expected. And then importantly, it will return num1 times num2. So that's what will get sent back to SmartBuilder, and that's where we will use that. So let's take a look at this in SmartBuilder again. Let's go back up here. So it is important that this lesson1.sbconfig has the same name as the lesson that it's targeting. If this has a different name, it's not going to work at all. So if you create a lesson 2 or a lesson 3, you'll also need to create a copy of this sbconfig folder and the files within. If every lesson that you create is going to have the same files, I'll show you that sort of at the end of this video, where you can put in a default sbconfig, and then any lessons that you generate will have those custom files. So this is kind of useful for targeting specific lessons that have specific custom functions, but there's another method that's very similar that gets attached to any and all lessons that you produce. So let's just take a quick look here. I've renamed this so that it can't find it. Let's just call this something totally different, blah 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 .sbconfig. So now when I'm in this lesson, if I preview it, nothing happens. I also have some custom CSS to modify the look and feel of radio buttons and checkboxes. That's not being found. So if we were to publish this lesson and take a look at those files that are in there, we can see there's 3 folders: app, lib, widget. If you choose a SCORM output, it might be slightly different, any of that stuff. So yeah, basically this is not finding our custom stuff that we added. That's to be expected. So let's go ahead and rename this to lesson space1.sbconfig. This was our previous output. I'm just going to delete that because it'll get regenerated. So what's neat is while this is sitting next to it and it has the same name, so the sbconfig folder, again, remember, has sb module, and then these custom things. We can take a quick look at the CSS file. It is here. So it's changing the radio button look and feel, and then also the checkboxes, and it's pulling in a specific file for the checkbox when it's checked. So that's this check.png. So what's neat is I can preview this and it's going to run automatically. So these already look different because it found that folder next to it with the sbconfig. And when I send data in here, so if we send in 12 and 5, there's my alert with 12 space x5. And when I hit OK there, it's going to return those 2 numbers multiplied together. Basically, we are able to use our custom CSS and JavaScript while we preview. We don't have to wait until after we publish to see the changes. Obviously, if your custom JavaScript is trying to do something more advanced, like communicate to a parent window or connect to a third-party server, it's probably not going to work here just when you preview because of data security issues. So you'll probably have to publish it and put up on the web or in your testing environment for those components to work. But something as simple as grabbing 2 numbers, multiplying them, and returning them, that can run locally on your machine here just in the preview. So great, this is working. Now, as a reminder, if I create a copy of this lesson and call it lesson 2, and then I go to preview lesson 2, it can't find that stuff. Here, these aren't using that custom visual stuff. This data isn't working. And again, that's because we are in lesson 2, and there's no lesson2.sbconfig. And within that, there's no SB module and all of that stuff. So these names do need to match. So I would probably create a copy of this and call it lesson2.sbconfig. Or if I knew that I was going to do that for all of my output, I'd put that in a different location. So one thing that I do want to show here before we move on to the default location, I've just reopened lesson 1 to get it working. So when I publish this, and we take a look at the output folder, we can see that sb_module folder was added. So the default output of SmartBuilder would be these files that we have selected, minus this SB module. But when I include it, then when I publish, it gets included. All of those helper files come along with it, the custom CSS, the PNG that it's using for the check marks, and then that custom JavaScript. Those all get bundled in here. So if I were to create a SCORM package, it would get packaged with that. If I were creating some other output XAPI or something, it would get bundled together with all of those. So the last thing that we want to do here, let's just delete this folder. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do is there is a central location where I can put this information. So it's C users and then whatever your username is .smartbuilder. I've had a number of SmartBuilders installed in here. You would probably only have one of these default sbconfig folders. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this lesson1.sbconfig and we're going to copy it into here. And we're going to rename it just default.sbconfig. And then here I'll mangle this up. All right, so now it is still able to find this when I preview, that custom JavaScript is working, the custom CSS is working. And any lessons that I open, let's go ahead and open up lesson 2 here, is also going to be able to find that because it's centralized. I attached it not to a lesson or targeting a lesson, I'm targeting any SmartBuilder lesson that I create. So obviously that's much more powerful, but if you're using it only for certain clients or certain projects, you will need to manage that and delete or rename that default.sbconfig when you don't want to use it. So if all of your output is going to be the same, this is safe to use. If you need to turn it on and off manually, you'll need to sort of manage this and use it when you need it and remove it when you don't need it. Alternatively, you can target specific files by using the lesson1.sbconfig here, or whatever your file names are. So those are the two methods of attaching custom CSS, and then inside SmartBuilder, usually this part's pretty easy, and then the file management is a little bit more difficult, and then of course the really difficult part is creating your custom JavaScript to do what you actually want it to do. So hopefully that's helpful. And where do you find these files? Take a look in our help documentation to find this video, and next to it there should be a link to the demo files that you can download and modify. That will be safer than starting from scratch.